Hello, everybody. It's 4 p.m. sharp in Shanghai and 10 a.m. sharp in Latvia, and we'll be very slowly starting our webinar. I can see that some participants already have logged in, and probably some of you are still just logging on. So first of all, I would like to really thank you everyone for taking your time out of your day and logging into our webinar. I really hope it's going to be useful to all of the listeners. And I'd also like to introduce myself if some of you still do not know me. My name is Agnes Stormane, and I'm a head of a representative office of LIA in China, and I'm particularly responsible for the Southern China. And most of you probably already know that Investment and Development Agency of Latvia is subordinated to Ministry of Economics. And our key goal is to help Latvian economy. So for example, we work a lot in export. So we're helping Latvian companies export abroad. We also work with investment, attracting foreign direct investment into Latvia. We also work with tourism as well as innovation. And we have around 20 offices around the world, which are particularly helping Latvian companies to get access to those markets. So if throughout the whole, after the whole presentation and webinar, you still have additional questions on IPR protection, feel free to contact either the experts that we have invited today, or you can also contact me anytime if there's any questions related to the China market. And we are always open for communication. Our contact information is available in the LIA website, and feel free to contact me. So today's topic, I think, is quite interesting. This is already the actually third webinar that we're doing with China. And today's topic is more related to IPR protection. And I think this is an extremely important topic in China, maybe more so than in other regions. And either you're a SME that is already exporting to China, maybe you are planning to export to China, or maybe you're just slightly considering that it could be an interesting market. I think that's the time when you have to really also consider your IPR protection. And it's very important in particularly China market because of these regular branding thefts or copying. And I think also the China IPR help desk will give further details why it's so important to think about it in the China market. So throughout the webinar, we have two speakers. We have Jennifer, who will be rather introducing the IPR help desk, as well as we have a Matthias, who is an expert of IPR protection. And throughout the webinar, if you have some additional questions, feel free to write down the questions in the Q&A box. And after the whole webinar, we'll go through these questions and answer them. But without further ado, let me give the microphone to Jennifer, who will give further details about the IPR help desk. Who are we collaborating with today, and that are our experts for today's webinar. Jennifer, I'll give you the microphone and floor to you.
Hello, thank you. Hello, good afternoon or good morning. This is Jennifer from China IPR SME Help Desk. Today I will give you a brief introduction about our organization, how we could support you. And of course, afterwards, you can always send any IP-related question to our helpline. China IPR SME Help Desk is a European Union-funded project. It's designed to help EU SME with intellectual property right issue in mainland China, Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. Our project offers a variety of services that enable EU SME to make informed decisions about IP right, and all these services are free of charge. We provide our service via inquiry helpline, events, and also we're offering some business tools and solutions on our website. The inquiry helpline is for EU SME to ask us any IP-related question, and you will receive reply with 3 working days. So it's quite efficient, and just send a question to us. Our help desk also organize training, seminars, and live webinars all over China and Europe. So it may cover topics range from very basic training to tailor-made seminar on a specific issue, for example, this time. So if you want to participate in any webinar or events, and you can find a schedule on our website. Actually, on our website, you can find various resources on IP issue, for example, infographic or case study or podcast. And also it contains a comprehensive library of IP guidelines, which cover all major IP topics, consist of trademark, copyright, patent, or trade secret. We also offer some industry-specific guides, such as IP in Industry 4.0 or IP in ICT industry, as well as details like how to remove counterfeit products from e-commerce. That's mainly the service, how we support you. And please, you are always welcome to send IP question to our helpline at any time. And next, before give the floor to the speaker, Mr. Matthias Zubimendi, it's my great honor to introduce him. Matthias is the IP business advisor at China IPR SME Help Desk. He holds a master's degree in Chinese civil commercial law and the master degree in intellectual property law. He really has a strong background in both business development and IPR protection, as well as extensive experience in terms of the legal affair, patent, and the trademark issue. So without any delay, now I give the floor to Matthias. Matthias, please.
Thank you, Jennifer. Hello, everyone. Today we're going to discuss how to protect your intellectual property right, how to, how to protect your intellectual property rights in China, especially how to protect your brand, your own design, how to protect how your company and your product looks like with the Chinese consumers. So this is the table of contents. First, we will do a brief introduction of all intellectual property rights, as well, and then we will discuss in details trademark protection, design patents protection, and trade secrets. Finally, I will give some tips about how to enforce and commercialize intellectual property rights in China. But when we talk about intellectual property rights, what are we talking about? Basically, we're talking about a set of different rights. All of them, they are a monopoly over a very specific aspect. For example, in the case of innovation patents and utility models, what it is protected are technologies. They could be products or processes. This means a final product or the process about how to manufacture a product. What you will have is the monopoly over certain specific acts. For example, production, sale, import, export over that product, in the case of processes to perform them in an industrial application. Then we also have, regarding aesthetic aspects, we have the design patents. We don't have to confuse them with innovation patents. They are everything is very different, even the registration process, but we will discuss them in detail later. Then we have the trademarks. In the case of trademarks, what it is protected is any sign that is capable of distinguishing your products from the ones from your competitors. We have copyright that protects the expression of an idea. It doesn't protect the idea itself, but how it is expressed by a person. In the case of companies, copyright is particularly important because they also protect software in China, as well as databases. That for technological companies, the uses of databases, specifically the ones that use artificial intelligence, are quite important. Finally, we have to discuss trade secret protection that also involves know-how. This intellectual property right sometimes is forgotten because it's not registered, but it's actually quite important, especially for those companies that are not still based in China and they do not have any registered IP yet, but they want to start interacting with this market, could be with the trade fair or even starting negotiations with the potential client or partner. So yeah, we will learn about how to protect your trade secrets. But also we have to learn the main principles that are quite important because they set the basic rules for every single intellectual property rights. The first one is a registration principle. This means that if you do not have an intellectual property right registered, you don't have any type of protection. The only exception, as I mentioned, it's trade secret. But with any other, if you do not have a registration done, you will have no protection. This is particularly important in the case of China, because in Europe, it is quite common to see unregistered IP rights being protected, particularly with trademark and registered trademarks. They have certain level of protection. This is not the case in China. If you do not have any registration, you won't be able to enforce any right. This principle, sorry, it is also connected with the different principle that is called the first to file. This means that the first company that files an intellectual property right will have a priority over any other later registration. So as you can imagine, if there is a company that already registered a trademark, will have a priority over any other company. But what happens if the first registration was done in bad faith? Well, it will be, because of this principle, it will be very difficult to challenge and get it back. So as you can already imagine, it is very, very important to do the registration as soon as possible, because if there is any other company registering your IP rights, even if it is a bad faith registration, then it will be really hard to get it back. Finally, the other main principle is the Territoriality Principle. This means that the registration only grants protection within the territory of the country where it was registered. This means that your trademark registered in Latvia or in the EU will not grant any protection in China. The same way, the registration done in China will not grant any protection in Europe, because it only protects within the territory of the country. Also, in the case of China, you have to consider that there are 4 different jurisdictions if you want full protection within the territory of the country. You will have to do a registration in mainland China, Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. Each jurisdiction had its own intellectual property office. And again, if you want full protection, you will have to do 4 different registrations. But let's go to the main intellectual property rights regarding branding and design. The first one is trademark. As I mentioned, trademark is any sign that helps your company to distinguish its products over the competitors. By trademark, we have not only the name of the company, but also it could be the name of the product, or it could be any sign. It could be a logo, it could be a smell, a combination of colors. It could be anything that helps your product to be distinguished from the one from your competitors. How to protect your trademark in China? There are 2 different registration methods. The first one is going to the Chinese National Intellectual Property Agency. This is the most direct way. You directly go with the office and file an application there. This application has to be filed in Chinese language. The only obstacle could be that if your company do not have a registered company in China, and this also means that you don't have any address in China, you will necessarily need an IP attorney with you. This should be done with an IP attorney. There is another alternative that is the Madrid system. The Madrid system is an international agreement in which companies are able to register the trademark in their own language, in their own jurisdiction, and then expand it to certain jurisdictions. All countries in the EU are members of the Madrid system, as well as China. So this is a possibility that your company directly registers in Latvia the trademark and then expand it to mainland China. This has some advantages because you can do it with your own IP agent. You can do it in your language and then expand it. You don't need an IP attorney in China because all the procedure is started in your home country. However, if later there is any comment or any office action from the national office, then you will need a Chinese IP attorney. And also it's quite convenient from the cost if your company is planning to do the registration in several jurisdictions, because even though the registration itself it's more expensive, at the end of the day it's cheaper than if you go jurisdiction by jurisdiction, hiring a different attorney in each one of them. So if your company is planning to expand to several countries, then this is a good option. Also, you have to consider that there is a difference between the classification of products when applying with the Madrid system. There is a difference between the European method and the Chinese method, but I will explain later this topic. So what are the requirements to registering a trademark? First, the trademark has to be legal. This means that it shouldn't be forbidden by the trademark law. This is not actually a very significant requirement, or it's only few aspects are forbidden. For example, the flags of countries, symbols of any country, they are actually very specific, so it shouldn't be an issue. However, it is important to highlight that you cannot register as a trademark the description of the product that you are trying to register. For example, you cannot register soda for sodas because actually your competitors won't be able to describe their products. So this is not allowed. Another requirement is that the trademark should not be functional. It should be only a sign that helps to distinguish your product, because if it is functional, actually it belongs to a different IP right. That this would be either a utility model or innovation patent. It should be distinctive enough. This means that it should be different from the ones from your competitors. So consumers, when they are buying your product or hiring your services, they know they are hiring you or buying your product and not one from your competitor. They can know who was the producer of these products, and they know they're buying what they think they're buying. Finally, the last requirement is that it should be available. This means that the trademark should be open to register in the class. This is done doing a search about what are the already registered trademarks, and this should be done before doing the registration. But we will also discuss the steps later. Trademarks are classified in different classes and subclasses. There are actually 45 classes, 34 for products, 11 for services. This classification is done with the NIST classification. In the case of the EU and China, they share the same classification. However, each class has also different subclasses. This, for example, in the class 25 for clothes, you have different subclasses, one for t-shirts, one for trousers, one for shoes, etc. Each subclass is a different type of product or service. Here, the classification used by the EU and China is quite different. It is not different in every single class, but in many of them, the subclasses are actually different. So, as I mentioned before, when you are applying with the matrix system and you are choosing what class and what subclasses you want to do the registration, your company or your IP agent should pay attention to what type of subclasses you are applying to, because if there is a difference between the one used in the EU and the one used in China, and because subclasses are actually named with a number, if you just copy the number, you may end up doing the registration for a different product. So yeah, this is something to pay attention to when using the matrix system. In the case of China, there is also a different phenomenon that it's called the trademark translation. Because Chinese consumers, some of them at least, they are not able to read our alphabets the same way if we don't speak Chinese, we're unable to read the Chinese characters. In order to make easier for them to read our product, our company name and our product name, and make it the trademark easier to become famous. Many companies, what they do is translating the trademark into Chinese characters. There are different alternatives for doing this. The first one is doing a phonetical translation. This means that they just replicate how our brand sounds using Chinese characters. And this way, when you read the characters, you're actually pronouncing the name of your company, of your product name. The risk of this type of translation is that when using a character, you're actually choosing a character that has a deeper meaning. It's not only the sound, but it actually contains a concept. It has deeper meaning. And when choosing these characters, your company should be careful about the actual meaning or the actual content of these characters, because you don't want a negative character associated with your company name. Imagine you have a company that sells food and you have the character for disgusting. You don't want this because your consumers will be associating the disgusting concept with your company. And this, sadly, it happened many times. So when doing a phonetical translation, please pay attention and work with the native speaker, because they will be able to tell you not only if it sounds exactly the same, but if it has actually a bad meaning or a good meaning, positive or negative meaning for your, from the marketing point of view. Another type of translation would be a literal translation. You just replicate the concept of your brand if it has. For example, in the case of Apple, it's super easy. You just translate the word Apple into Chinese, and then you have a literal translation. Finally, what is ideal is to do both type of registration. This means copying phonetically the sound of your trademark, at least as much as possible, but also keeping the main concepts of your brand. So that would be the ideal scenario, but it's not possible in every time. Finally, regarding trademark and copyright protection, please take into consideration that in the case of China, particularly in the case of e-commerce, when you want to create a user and start selling online, the e-commerce platform will request you for a proof about your IP rights over the brand of the trademark. So the normal step would be to present your trademark certificate, and that's the proof that you have the rights over the brand. However, sadly, we've seen that some bad faith sellers, what they are doing is a copyright registration of the logo of a company. So when they want to create a user and the platform requests them for an intellectual property right certificate, they basically present the copyright certificate that is actually valid. And they're able to create the user and start selling online. So this way they overcome the lack of trademark registration with the copyright registration. And it is very difficult in China to take down a copyright certificate, especially if you do not have copyright registration before or with the previous date of the original copyright of the one you're trying to take down. And it could take even several years. So it's quite difficult to do that. And if your company gets involved in this scenario, it's going to be very difficult to stop an infringer to keep selling online. However, if your company do the registration in advance, the copyright registration in advance, in parallel with the trademark registration, I would suggest, then you will have a method of enforcement that will solve the problem very easily. Because, and we will discuss this at the end of the presentation, one jurisdiction for e-commerce are the internet courts that are very specialized courts for this type of cases that would solve the issue within 1 month, less than a month actually. And if you have a copyright certificate with the prior date, then you will be able to take down the copyright certificate, and especially the e-commerce user or the e-commerce sales that are being offered in, as I said, in less than a month. So when we talk about trademark protection in China, we advise to do the trademark registration, but also doing a copyright registration of your logo. How to do, or what are the typical steps for registering a trademark in China? They're quite similar to the ones you can find in Europe. Before the registration itself, the first step would be to conduct a trademark search. Basically, this means that you check that the name of your product or your logo is not already registered by a third company. You have to pay attention what are the precedents and if they are similar or not. Basically, what you have to pay attention to if consumers may confuse your trademark with the one that is already registered. Here you have to understand that trademarks can coexist even if they are exactly the same, if they belong to different classes. So you have for example, a trademark called, I don't know, Matthias. You can have one company in the class 25, and then you can have one in class 31, even if it belongs to a different company, and they can coexist because they simply belong to different classes, and no consumer will confuse, because when they're buying a trouser, they know they're not buying a beer. So yeah, the products are very different and there is no confusion. Also, you have to define how your trademark will be registered, because you can do the registration only from the logo, only for the name, or you can combine both of them, and in this case, the protection will be granted if you use them combined. So many companies, what they do is a combination or a combined registration in order to save cost. Instead of doing 2 different applications, they do only one with all the elements. But then again, if you do this, protection will be granted when you're using all the elements at the same time. Then you have to define the classes and subclasses for your products. You have to prepare all the documents. You will need the application form, power of attorney, ID documents, and if it is a particular, you will be your ID. And if it is a company, you will need a company certificate. Regarding the registration process itself, after the application, there will be a formal examination where the office checks that all the application form, all the information there, it's okay. Then there will be a substantial examination where the office will check all the precedents and see if there is any trademark or any precedent that can be confused with your trademark. This shouldn't be an issue if you already conduct a trademark search, because at this point you already know what it's registered and supposedly you overcome any potential obstacle. After this, it will be published for 3 months in order to third companies to present oppositions if they believe that their own trademarks can be confused with the one you are trying to register. If you have an opposition, the registration process will stop till this opposition is solved. And if there is no opposition, then your trademark will be granted. If you apply with the Mazo system, there is a difference in the registration process. It only becomes longer because the Mazo system, when you apply it in your home country, then it starts a phase called international phase, in which the trademark goes to the international office and then it's sent to each national office of each jurisdiction that you chose for the registration. And now it begins the national phase. That is exactly the one as I described. It begins, the registration is done as if you register directly with the national office. So the main difference applying with the Mazo system regarding the registration process is that it will take longer. Regarding if you need the local agent, as I mentioned before, if your company is not based in China and do not have any address, you will need the local agent to do the registration. But if you are based in China, you can directly go and do the registration yourself. However, it's always advisable to go with an IP expert, or at least consult an IP expert, especially for doing the trademark search. Regarding time and cost, normally the trademark registration takes from 6 months to 1 year. And regarding the cost, the application fee is 300 RMB for each class, and you can register up to 10 subclasses. And then if you want an extra subclass, per extra subclass, it would be 30 more renminbi. So that are the costs. Of course, if you have an IP attorney, then you will have to add the fees of the attorney, but that depends on each case. Regarding design patents, what design patents protect are aesthetic aspects of the product. It's purely ornamental. They only protect how the product looks and how it is presented with your client, and that's it. There's no usage of the product. It shouldn't be confused with innovation patents when you have certain technology applied. No, this only protects how the product looks. In the case of design patent, in this case, you have no other option than doing the registration with the China National Intellectual Property Agency. And this has to be done in Chinese language. Again, the same rule regarding if you need an IP attorney or not. It depends on if you are based or not in China. If you are based, you don't need. If you are not based, you will need a local agent. Regarding the requirements, basically there are 2 requirements. First one is novelty. This means that your design should be new. It shouldn't be published. And this novelty should be global. This means that your company shouldn't have disclosed your design anywhere in the world. This is particularly important if your company is planning to start promoting the product, but you still haven't done the trademark registration, the design patent registration. It happened many times that companies attend a trade fair, they show their products, and when starting getting some orders, then they apply for the IP rights protection. In this case, be careful because you may have lost your design patent protection. And the second requirement is non-functional. As I mentioned before, it only protects the ornamental aspects. So any other usage or the advantage that the design provides, it should be registered as utility model or innovation patent. Regarding the application documents, these are quite significant. First, you have the application form on request. You also have to include some drawings or pictures of how your product looks like. And these photos should cover every single angle of the product. You have to include a brief explanation of the design. This means a description of how the design is done, how it is set on the product. Now, or not now actually, from 1st of June 2021, thanks to the new patent law, your company will be able to protect partial designs. This means designs that are applied only to a very specific part of the product before or till the 1st of June. Only full designs are possible to be protected. This is the full design of the product. So this is a new change from the new patent law. And regarding other documents or adding application documents, or again, if you are a particular your ID, or if you are a company, your company certificate. Regarding design patents, what are the main differences with the EU? With what we are more used to? The first one is the term of protection. While in the EU, normally design patents last till for 25 years. In the case of China, the term is quite reduced. Today, the term is 10 years, but thanks to the new patent law, from 1st of June of 2021, it will be 15 years of protection. Then we have the case of the unregistered design patents protection. In Europe, unregistered design patents, they do have a certain level of protection, at least for 3 years. This is not the case in China. In China, unregistered design patents are free to use. So if you haven't done the registration and you lost the novelty, anyone will be able to use your design. That's why it's very important to do the registration on time. The third difference is the limit of number of designs protected in one application. In the case of in the EU, there's no limit. In the case of China, there's a limit of 10 designs per application. Regarding the novelty requirements, there is a significant difference between the EU and China. In the EU, the novelty is global. However, there is a grace period for doing the registration, while in China, as I mentioned before, the novelty should be global, but there is no grace period. Once the novelty is lost, your IP rights over the design are also lost. Regarding the registration process itself, what are the typical steps? First, you have to collect all the necessary documents, prepare them in advance so you save time, present the application, and then only a formal examination will be done. There is no look for precedent or any type of these examinations. it's possible to receive an office action. This means a comment from the office that something is wrong, but since it's only formal examination, it's quite unlikely. And after that, it will be granted and it will be published. Regarding if it is necessary to hire a local agent for managing the registration, as I mentioned already many times, if you are based in China, you don't need, but if you're not based in China, you will need. Regarding time and cost, the time is normally 6 months for doing the registration, and the cost is 500 RMB per application. Trade secrets. With trade secrets, basically we're protecting any type of information that only your company, or at least only few companies know, that gives you a competitive advantage. By this type of information, it could be commercial information, could be technological information, could be design information. At the end of the day, the most important part of trade secrets is that any unregistered IP rights, your company has to protect them as a trade secret. Because if taking into consideration the registration principle, that you don't have protection if it's not registered, then you should keep it as a trade secret till the moment you do the registration. What are the requirements for considering certain specific information as a trade secret? The first one is that, again, yeah, it's obvious, but the information should be secret. This means that it shouldn't be known by the vast majority of competitors. It's not necessary that only your company knows this information, but at least it shouldn't be published, or it shouldn't be accessible for anyone who looks for the information. The second requirement is that this information needs to have value for the sake of being secret. This means that it provides you with a competitive advantage, or it provides you with certain benefit for knowing this information. And finally, and most important, is that this trade secret has to be protected with very specific measures. This type of measures should be physical. For example, in the case of a document, you have the seal saying that it is confidential or secret. So everyone or any of your employees who reads the document knows that they have to keep this document as secret. They can be informatic. This, for example, using a server, but only few people have access to the server. There is a password, there is a protective software that is helping to keep the secret as a secret. And also you have legal measures that normally these are known as NDAs, or non-disclosure agreements, in which every time you get in contact with the potential client or potential partner and you're discussing sensible information, then you sign an NDA, and yeah, this other party knows that they cannot disclose any information, or they're going to be liable. The method or the rule for knowing how much to protect a trade secret is that the protective measure should be reasonable according with the importance or the benefit of the trade secret. So if your trade secret is the key of your business, then you have to apply as many protective measures as possible. But if it is just a detail or something that is not very relevant, then you can be more relaxed. Trade secrets are particularly important for protecting novelty, as you already may imagine. And there are very specific cases in which you have to be very careful and pay special attention if you are disclosing or not trade secrets. The first scenario is trade fairs or exhibitions. If in the case of brand and design, don't attend to a trade fair and or do not show or disclose any design when attending a trade fair if you haven't do the registration in advance. In the case of design patents, you will lose any possibility of protection. In the case of trademarks, it is possible that someone see the trademarks and do the registration in advance. And then again, thanks to the first to file rule, it will be very difficult to get it back. A second scenario is when negotiating with partners and clients. Be careful when dealing with them. Disclose only that information that is important or necessary to disclose in order to get what you want. And if it is not necessary, do not disclose it, and always sign NDAs or even more NNN agreements, non-disclose, non-use, non-circumvention agreements, which are much more complex. Yeah, I advise you to sign one of these type of contracts and get them prepared or tailor-made with an expert. And the third scenario that is also quite common is when creating the e-commerce user and starting uploading products in e-commerce platforms to start offering online products that haven't been registered yet. Regarding IP management of trade secrets, it is advisable for those companies to set in the handbook of employees to set protocols and rules about IP management, to teach your employees how to deal with future intellectual property rights. For example, if a new design is made, to teach the people who are actually doing this type of designs that they cannot disclose it, that they cannot do any publication, that they have to notify their superior and let them know that there is a new trademark, a new potential trademark, a new potential design, and to start the IP registration or the IP protection strategy as soon as possible. So this is a good technique, a good habit that we normally recommend. Finally, regarding IP management, you also have to learn that you can license your IP rights to certain companies and start getting benefit or fees, or exploit your IP rights via licenses. Regarding enforcement and commercialization methods, that is also connected with licenses. But regarding enforcement, the most common one is the judicial enforcement. This could be civil or criminal. Regarding civil enforcement, you have different jurisdictions as well. You have the People's Court that are the simple and common jurisdiction. In China, you also have intellectual property courts that are specialized. You will find them in big cities. For example, there's in Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and many others. And as I mentioned before, in China, you will also find the internet courts that are quite important or quite useful for getting results faster, because while in people's courts or IP courts, a case normally will take within 3 to 6 years even. With the internet court, cases are solved in less than a month. The only problem would be that the jurisdiction for internet courts are quite limited. They only apply for online cases, could be copyright infringement online, could be e-commerce or domain names infringement. But if your case is one of these, it's good to know that this jurisdiction exists. The entire process in internet court happen online. You can upload all the information with your phone. However, it's advisable to go with an attorney, because at the end of the day, it is it is a case, it is a litigation case, so it's advisable to go with an attorney. With the criminal courts, what you're actually doing is doing the prosecution against the person who infringed your rights. Regarding alternative dispute methods, you have the usual ones that are arbitration and mediation. With mediation, the third party is just trying to help you and the other party to negotiate and reach an agreement, while in arbitration, the third party will make a decision about how to solve this case. In these alternative dispute methods, at the end of the day, you need an agreement with the other party, because you can only apply to these alternatives before you reach an agreement. Then you also have the administrative jurisdiction, that you go to an administrative office or agency and you apply for the administrative actions there. This, in the China National Intellectual Property Agency, you have several different actions, especially during the registration process. However, there is one administrative option that I would like to highlight, especially in the case of trademarks, that with the custom office, you can do the registration of your already registered trademark with the custom office. So custom officers, when a product is import or export, they will be checking them. They will be analyzing if they match with one of the registered trademarks. And if they do, they will stop the goods, they will stop all the products and notify the trademark holder. So if there is actually an infringement, then your company will have the chance to confiscate or even destroy the infringing products. And this alternative, I believe it's very useful and very good, because this registration can be done online with the custom office. It can be done in English, and it's for free, since you will have the custom officers checking the products at the borders. You will get a method of protection, of controlling actually the import and export of products with your potential trademark for free. So I believe it's very convenient. Finally, regarding commercialization method, as I mentioned before, you have to consider the license as also a method of solving of dispute resolutions or a solving method, because one of the main problems with enforcing intellectual property rights is that they're very expensive and they take a lot. So your company should consider the license as another alternative. We have two different approaches. The first one is the carrot strategy, in which when you notice that the company is infringing your products, you just contact them and say, okay, we notice about this, we know it's a mistake. These are the fees if you want to become a partner with us. So you actually try to convince them to join your group of partners. Also, you have the stick approach, in which you basically threaten them to sue them if they do not accept your license. As final messages or takeaway messages, I would say register your intellectual property right as soon as possible. Remember the first to file rule, and also the registration principle. So if you are planning to enter the Chinese market and you already took the decision, start doing the registration as soon as possible. Protect your trade secrets till you do the registration. Get a good attorney for doing all the registrations, so you know that when you apply, everything will be smooth and you won't have any issue, and you can start performing or doing business before actually having the registration granted or registration finished. And finally, anticipate the registration, collecting all the documents and checking all the requirements, because this could save you a lot of time. Also, if you have any inquiry, you can contact us, the China IPR SME Help Desk. You can send any inquiry regarding IP rights. We normally reply within 3 working days, and we are pretty fast and confidential. All our services are for free. These are our social media addresses. And let's proceed with the Q&A. You're muted, Jennifer.
Thank you, Matthias, for the informative presentation, such IPR protection in details, and even also the updated patent law, which will affect on 1st of June next year. Yeah. And the next, and let's go to the Q&A section. And if anybody have a question, you can type in Q&A chat box, or actually also you can raise your hand, then we'll unmute you and you can ask the question by yourself. Yes. Actually, we already got 2 questions, oh, not only 2. Okay, let's go one by one. The first one, narrative for the design patent globally. We have wooden toy, which we have in the market worldwide shipped already since 2016. Oh, this is a few years ago. The previous owner didn't register it. I was told in Latvia that we won't able to register it anymore because of the novelty. Now we found out that in September 2020, design of our products has been registered. What do you suggest about this case? And Matthias,
yes, I believe why this happened is quite easy to know, because if you check the registration process, there is no substantial examination. They only check the formalities, that all the application form information is fine. So what this registration managed to get is a very weak IP right certificate. If the design is actually lost because there is no novelty, and you have been commercializing the same design during many years before this registration, then what you can do is to challenge the design. This could be done either proactively, directly going and challenge it, or when you are offering your product and they come to you and say you're infringing our design, then you answer back, or you fight back with the nullity of this registration. I mean, I'm talking theoretically because I haven't seen these designs and I haven't seen the certificate, but this would be my answer. What you can do is to fight back, asking for the nullity of the design. The nullity is because of lack of novelty.
Okay, thank you. Next question is about trademark application. Because you introduced, and the cost is about 300. That means the 300 consists of maximum 10 subclasses. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. The next question is, if I have a company already registered in China and I have an employee that speaks Chinese, can I do an application process by myself directly?
Yes.
In China, yeah.
If you have an address in China, this means that you're based in China. Your company can directly apply it with the agency and get the trademark application. It is always advisable to go with an attorney, at least for doing the precedent search, to see if you won't have any issue with the trademark registration itself. But if you know that there is no precedent, that your trademark is so new that no one has anything related or anything that is similar, you are capable of doing the registration by yourself.
Okay. Thank you, Matthias. The other question is about industry design. This company already registered industry design patent in Latvia, and the company, as you explained, in China, they still have to process the registration, right? But what if they want to manufacture in China? Then they want to understand nobody steal their idea, their patent design. Would you please give some advice to them what the risk might be, or if they didn't get registration, the finalized registration yet, or what they should do if they really want to produce in China, or if they already get the registration and what they should do, or what point they should pay attention. Thank you.
Well, if you have the registration done in Latvia, but you don't have the registration done in China, then, and if it has been published, then you won't be able to get protection in China. So anyone will be able to do this, to use this design. Then the alternative for this is to protect it with trade secrets. So one possibility is to, when requesting for the production, to get an NNN agreement. This is that this manufacturer won't be able to use the design in doing this when producing this type of design. They won't be able to manufacture more, that they won't be able to be your competitors, that they work with you exclusively. And if they do this, to get to compensate you. At the end of the day, these type of agreements are difficult to enforce because, again, you don't have any design protection within the Chinese territory. So it's very easy to overcome this obstacle. It only matters that they register a new company and they start manufacturing with the new company. But this is the only option that I see, because at the end of the day, you don't have an IP registration done in China. So the design is free to use. What you have is to overcome this lack of protection via contracts, trying to block as much as possible or to not disclose this design as much as possible. Another possibility, but at the end of the day, you will end up with a very weak registration, is to do the registration in China, taking advantage of the lack of substantial examination. But again, if you try to enforce it, you may receive that they are fighting back with the nullity action, and you will lose protection. But again, you will have certain certificate as a method of proof for convincing companies to use that you have certain level of protection.
Okay, thank you, Matthias. Next question is still about industry design. Where do I sell my industry design in case I decide to do it? And what do I have to do to realize it?
Where you can sell your design?
Yeah. If they get, for example, I get a design patent and I want to sell it. Yeah.
Well, what you need is a client. So actually, I think the most advice, or my best advice, would be to start attending to trade fairs, to exhibition, to see who are the people that are in the sector, who would be interested in your design, get in contact, and then directly do a license to them.
Okay.
This would be the method of exploitation for your design if you don't want to produce it yourself.
Okay, the other question is about something about software. How can I protect the intangible goods such as software? We sell our license from Latvias, and we have some partner in China, but no represented office here. So what's your advice?
Can you repeat it, please? You want to protect software?
Yeah, they want to protect the intangible goods such as software. they want to sell or buy license from the office out of China because they have a partner in China, but they don't have their own office in China. So what they should, how they should proceed and what they should pay attention about some risk.
Yes, I mean, always pay attention to who you're dealing with, but let's go step by step. If you want to protect software, in the case of China, the most common method is via copyright. There is also the chance in very specific situations in which you can have an innovation patent for software. But again, this is for very specific moments in which software is in combination with hardware and the technical solution that the patent is offering for solving the technical problem. It is provided by the software in a more complex process. So it's a very difficult scenario. Normally software is protected, in China is protected via copyright. Regarding how to exploit any intellectual property right, the same happens with software, is that once you have the registration done, you will have the monopoly over this product, these IP rights, and then you should get the license. You can license it. This means to allow a third party to use your intellectual property rights or to sell them directly. You just transfer the ownership over the intellectual property rights. Regarding how to pay attention or how to know if the other party is reliable, I understand that this is a very complex scenario because it's the risk of business. There is no way of having 100% of knowledge that this person is 100% reliable. However, a good habit or a good method of getting more information is first getting in contact with chambers of commerce, with embassies to ask them information about this company, what information they can get. And also you can contact us because we can look for, you can search for this company. If you provide us with the Chinese legal name of the company, we can check the background because there is a national database in which you can see all relevant information. For example, who is the legal representative, who are the shareholders, if there is any sanction against them, what are their business scope, and this will give you information. There's also a guide in our website about how to do this search. If you want to check in our website, let me see if we have the website published. No. Okay, it's in our website. There you can find this guide, or you can ask us. We only need the Chinese legal name. The method of obtaining the legal name is to request them a copy of the business license. If a company do not want to disclose the business license, then this is a huge red flag because it's very easy to obtain. You only need the QR code and it's published online. So it shouldn't be an issue at all. So yeah, these are the methods for protecting yourself or for getting more information about potential clients or partners.
Okay, thank you very much. We are already a little bit over time, then thank you everyone. If you still have any questions, just send to our inquiry helpline. Thank you.
I was about to say the same thing. Thank you guys as speakers. You did really provide a lot of interesting information. I hope it was very useful to all the delegates. If anyone still has some questions regarding IPR protection, please remember that you can always consult with the China IPR SME Help Desk. Their services are free of charge. A lot of very useful information on their website. So do please write them, get in contact with them if you, question@ChinaIPRHelpDesk.eu. If anything else is related to regarding other questions in China, always feel free to contact me as well. And thank you for your time and have a fantastic day. Thank you one more time, Matthias. Thank you, Jennifer, and have a fantastic day.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.